All right, guys, welcome back to the reunion of the CONCACAF Council, which seems to be growing bigger with every new episode. We'd like to welcome Eddie from CRC Futbol, who will be representing Costa Rica on this CONCACAF Council. Eddie, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. Excuse me, appreciate it.
Yeah, Costa Rica's been making a late surge to qualify, so it's going to be a lot of drama in the last window. As always, guys, we have JJD TV, or Josh, as you guys know him, who is currently flying high off the triumph of the only current 9-point window in CONCACAF qualifying. Man, what we all wouldn't give to be Canadian right now.
It's cold here. So
yeah,
be careful. Be careful.
Apart from the weather, JD over there looking high in the heavens for perhaps a last glimmer of hope that maybe Jamaica can pull out the impossible. No, JD's being a great sport here. And then, of course, we have Rogelio Mitre FC, who is hopefully from Panama going to be playing or trying to play spoil sport to American, Mexican, and Costa Rican ambitions. And CONCACAF Edgar, the U.S. MNT fan of Mexican descent who follows Mexico closely. Correct?
Yeah.
All right. I'll make sure I got that right. So, yeah, this is the current edition of the CONCACAF Council. Guys, how are we feeling? Yeah. Pretty good.
Doing great.
You've got, I think this is what it is right now. You've got Josh with the thumbs up, JD with the thumbs down, and us four are just like
the middle.
Like, well, maybe. No. So let's just start off, guys, as usual, by grading. I guess let's grade the window so far. The last window, how did we do, each of our teams, between A+ and F-? Josh, let's start on a high note. Should we just start with you?
I mean, you've asked me this every time, and I think I've pretty much been around that A- just because it started to seem like those 5-point windows at the beginning were impressive, and they started to get better, got the 7, and now we had a full 9-point window. Didn't concede a goal, scored 6, won in Central America twice, and beat the U.S. at home. So I feel like there's a couple things you could tweak, but also not having Davies and Eustachio, I have to give it an A+. I just, there's not much to say. This was a perfect window. It was a dream window. I think most of Canadian soccer fans are out there probably in disbelief and surprise, but it's wild. And there's a scenario where we could win, lose, or draw the game against Costa Rica and still qualify for the World Cup. So I think I saw the percentage was like 99.7. So like we're right there. So a lot of smiles all around.
Yes, indeed. JD.
Good day, guys. Hope you guys are all well. Yes. For me, I would go with a F. I would save the minus because I still saw some improvements, but we didn't get any point from this window, so I think a F is pretty much deserved.
All right. Eddie.
I'll go A-. Only reason why I won't give it an A for Costa Rica is I think a lot of people harped on, I guess, the style of play or the lack of, I guess, impressive performances. I went over a year without watching this team win a game. So I'm really not too, I guess, putting too much stock in how they looked as long as they get the points at this point. So I think, getting 7 points in this window, taking care of business, getting a point away at the Azteca is always impressive when you can get something out of that and really playing yourself. Although you didn't look impressive on the field, playing yourself back into this is worthy of an A-.
All right. Rogelio.
Yeah, I would give Panama a C just because, we were in a much better position coming into this second to last window. And now our entire qualification is at risk, right? Because we failed to get the positive results, right? Another game, just like El Salvador for us, right? Going to Costa Rica, we lose, even when we, outplay our opponent where, we have opportunities to win and take 3 points, but we failed to do so. And now Costa Rica is only 1 point behind us, right? I think starting out the window was 4 or 5 points. And now, if Panama trips up, Costa Rica can steal that 4th spot. So definite C for us.
All right. CONCACAF Edgar.
I'd give it a B because they didn't play the best, but I mean they got the points in Jamaica and they got the win versus Panama. They could have gotten a win versus Costa Rica, but they didn't. So that's why I give them a B.
All right. I'm going to go C- for the U.S. because although we did win 2 games, they were games against, the bottom 3 teams, okay, at home, which we should absolutely expect to win. We didn't look particularly good in either of them. One, we squeaked past El Salvador 1-0, and 2, we had to take Honduras to Arctic temperatures in order to feel like we were confident about getting a win, which might go down as one of the dumbest decisions we've ever made. And there's a lot to compete with from a USSF perspective in terms of dumb decisions, but that's got to be up there in the top 5. On top of that, we went to Canada, and despite our coach's claims that we were the dominant team, I think the vast majority of media and fan base can look at that and say we were not. We had more possession of the ball, and we were definitely trying to do more things. But trying, you don't get points for trying. We were not successful. We didn't create enough chances. We were vulnerable on the counterattack. And this was Canada without 2 of their 3 best players, Eustachio and Davies, and they still made us look amateur. Not sure what's happening with Edgar here. Is your camera having issues, buddy? All right. Well, I'm sure we'll get Edgar back at some point. So, yeah, I'm going to give us a C-. Maybe that's harsh, but I don't think it is. I think when you combine results and performances, C- is the best I can do at this point for the U.S. And it leaves us with a lot to do in the final window. And that final window is a tough one. We have the toughest window of all the teams that are left trying to qualify. And it's going to be an interesting stuff. So hopefully we don't screw it up. But let's sort of jump into the next one. Each of us. Hey, Rogelio. Yes.
Did you say that the U.S. has the toughest window?
I think we do. Do you think Panama's is tougher?
I think so.
Okay.
So we play Canada, and we play the U.S., and we play El Salvador. I think maybe you could make an argument that Costa Rica has a even more difficult window because they face U.S., Canada, and El Salvador.
But how many of your games are at home, Rogelio?
But I think when you're facing these kinds of opponents, we have home field advantage. Thankfully, right, we don't have any FIFA punishments this time. We can actually fill our stadium, and that could be a factor. But I think versus Canada, tough. And then we go to Orlando, which I'll be at that game. So,
oh, dope.
I'm going to be throwing in, everything I can to see us win. But I don't know. I feel like the U.S. Sorry to disagree with you on your own channel there, but
no, that's what this is for.
I don't know. I think I could cape up for you a little bit. I think playing it the Azteca way is always, I think, everybody's most difficult matchup. And the news today out of Costa Rica, there were rumors that they were going to try and play in La Cueva, Estadio Ricardo Saprissa, which a lot of you are familiar with through the old qualifiers. But we got our own national stadium a couple years back, which is still pretty much a fortress. But for us, we've had COVID restrictions the entire time. And the announcement today is it's 100%. It's going to be a packed stadium. And it's always been a difficult place for the U.S. to play, regardless of the location. So I think away to the Azteca and away to Costa Rica, a revitalized Costa Rica, man. There's a little bit of a window that I'm playing with that, that last game in Costa Rica could be the difference between 3rd and 4th. So
oh my God, I can't right now. No, we've never won in Azteca and we've never won in Costa Rica. That's just the truth for the U.S. So
I think the United States has the hardest fixtures left, 100%, because all of these guys are still live to make it.
Yes. Yeah. So it's going to be a lot. But before we jump into the next window, let's talk briefly about the last window. Maybe we could start with you, Rogelio. Some things that you thought the team did well in the last window. Start with the positives, We got no sound on you there.
Oh, I muted myself instead of unmuting myself. Yeah. What do I think we did well? I think that, we did well in staying faithful to our style. We some people may think, depends how you see this, right? But we go and we play Costa Rica very much playing our football, right? We didn't change the way we play because, say, we were playing versus Costa Rica away. We showed the same kind of football that we've been showing throughout the entire campaign. So I think that's good. I think, we're obviously, I think, what did we do well? Okay, we got 3 points versus Jamaica at home in a game where we start off with a penalty against us, right? In a stadium that's not filled, right? We couldn't fill the Rommel Fernandez. So I think we came back from just a really unfortunate first half. So I'll give them credit for that. And I mean, honestly, I don't have too many nice things to say, so I think I'll probably just keep it there in terms of positives. I'm very, very, very upset at some of the choices that our coach has made, but we can get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, you and I should have drinks, Rogelio. I'm sure we can can console each other over some of those issues. JJD, Josh, I'm sure you have a ton of positives.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of positives because it was an interesting window. Like I kind of touched on, I thought it was going to be one of the most difficult ones coming in. Going to Central America twice, which in history is terrifying, and then on top of having the U.S. at home, and you didn't know what, because I think they could have went toe to toe, and on top of that, our region's superstar wasn't at our disposal, and Eustachio picked up COVID, also was completing a move to Porto. He only ended up playing in the last match, and he's been arguably, and a lot of people have had this debate of who was the bigger miss, Steph or Davies, because we have a lot of attacking talent as well, but we don't really have someone who can fill in for Steph. So having a very confident and strategic coach in John Herdman, he decided to play in a 4-4-2. And I thought it was brilliant. He was able to use different players to their advantage. He was able to use David and Larin up front, which is something that we haven't seen in a very long time. There was sometimes where one was available, but the other one was not available. And sometimes when they played together, they just didn't gel. So I think a lot going into this window was the fact that they were banking on that click for Larin and David to figure it out. David had, I think, his best window. He scored 2 goals and 2 really, really well-taken goals. Larin got on the score sheet as well. They utilized the width with Buchanan. Larea was in there as well. And they proved a thing that was always bothered me was people had said, you know what, Canada has Davies. That is all you have. That is all you get. And we just proved without Davies, without Steph, we have more to this national team. And John Herdman was able to drill it in. The one interesting thing is I think the possession was in the 3 matches. One was 36%, one was 41%, and one was 51%. So we did it in a different type of style because we had to. He saw and recognized what was at our disposal. He lined up tactically, and some of the other CONCACAF managers out there made it a little bit easier for us to get on. But it was just super impressive because I was skeptical. I think I told you in the last window I would be happy with 5, and I'm glad the Canadian national team proved me wrong and proved me very wrong because with everything that looked to go against us, we pulled off a 9-point window and pretty much put us on the brink. So I'm thrilled with a lot of what I've seen, even though in a couple matches we didn't do it the prettiest way, but we did it, and that was the main thing. You muted, Pete.
Sorry. I think what you said there about John Herdman figuring out what are the strengths of his players and playing to those strengths. Like he doesn't care about stats except, the scoreboard, I think it seems. And that's, that's really good to see a coach who goes, I'm not going to be an ideologue and play the, what I think is the best way to play. I'm going to go look at my players and go, what benefits them, and that's the really thing with Herdman. You get the impression it's not all about him. It's all about the players. It's all about the country. It's all about the soccer. And he's just a facilitator,
And one of the biggest things I say is just he's got this group buying in. And we've been so known for this back three, these wing backs, whether it's a 3-4-3 or 3-5-2. But he completely changed that this window. And I think it was because going to Central America twice is very, very difficult. And then having the U.S. at home, who they probably predicted would have a lot more possession, he put them in a way where they could counter. And on top of it, on 2 of the matches, they were able to get very, very quick starts. And by scoring first, they just were able to implement that game plan, see out the match, and win both of them relatively comfortably into the 2-0. The El Salvador one was a little bit more difficult, but I mean, when it's going your way, it's going your way. If you guys saw Atiba Hutchinson's goal, you'll know what I mean that way. And they didn't seem like it was going to come, but he found a way to put the ball in the back of the net, and then we killed the game off. And when you don't concede, 9-point window, again, I was excited for this council meeting because I'm just very impressed with what's going on, and because of it, Canada's on the brink.
4 points clear at the top of the table. All right, JD.
Oh my God. Josh is just throwing it at Pete, believe me, because Pete was so confident. Oh my God.
I don't know if
I'm
I was as
loving this one.
confident as you're saying I was. It's this weird narrative going around, JD.
No, no problem, because I have to go to the sad side. We looked okay at the start against Mexico. We improved on the Aztecas' performance because we had better quality players at the start. But as what I've said before, we have an individual on the field that he is a walking red card. That's what I've said the last stream. And he turns up and gave away a red card, and I think it was 1000% of a red card. And from that point, it was an uphill task, and we actually got the lead because the same thing I've said about the Mexicans. I think they struggle with physicality and crosses from the box. We had that good opportunity to go up. But the lapse in concentration and the limited players that we have in our resource, because we brought on Albus Powell and we were playing with 9-man automatically because he's not playing on the field. I don't know what he's doing, but he just came on and just there, and we conceded 2 and we lost that game. And from that point, it just looked like it was an uphill task. We went up against Panama. Clearly, we never had a defensive central. I think that's the first place I should have started. We left out Anthony Grant, which is a defensive central. We brought in Stuart, but Stuart weren't playing for months. So he wasn't fit at all. So he couldn't play. So we took a midfielder and try to play him as a DM, but he can't hold that position. So I think it very early on in the game, like Animal Gadai and those guys for Panama realized it's the same thing over and over. So tell you what, even though they have skilled midfielder like Ravel Morrison, so we're going to let you guys through and then advance our midfield. We're going to take the risk. So we got the penalty early on because we had the midfielders with the creativity via Ravel Morrison, and then from that they just run us because Speedy Williams, he couldn't stop anyone, so the sad thing, the good thing about it, we found a kid, which is King. He looks like a solid player that can play beside Ethan Pinnock, because Ethan Pinnock proved that he's by far one of the best defenders in the complete region. So I hope the Jamaican selection just try to work with him. Just know that he's the best and just work with him and try find a partner from this point. But aside from that, those 2 centre backs, I've not seen much because we know about Mikel Antonio. He's going to either apply some service to a supporting cast. We never saw any supporting cast because we never brought any wingers. So he's just getting the ball and passing it to someone, no one picking it up. So I think the miscommunication, the new manager change, and just what happened from the start, just all sorts of chaos cost us the entire 3 games. But at the end of the day, I would say in the Costa Rica game, I like the way they actually pressed Costa Rica. They passed the ball around and they looked a little bit more confident. That's the best I can give them. And that's why I took off the minus and just give them the F.
All right. Yeah, it's a rough one. Seeing Jamaica with so much talent, but be so poor in terms of their selections and the tactics being so up and down and changing so frequently.
And you have to keep in mind, remember, we had actually dealt a big blow with the virus because of the English guys them playing in the topper leagues. They couldn't get to come for some certain matches and stuff. So I don't know, we are going to solve these things. Hopefully the virus finishes before another big tournament, because as you realized, Moyes, he really complained the last time that FIFA gave Antonio 1 extra day and he couldn't come back for the next game. He had like 24 hours recovery time, so he couldn't play in that game. So they are complaining. So you're going to find something else that most of the players are going to be missing again. So I don't know how we're going to solve that. But that's the next problem coming for future tournaments.
All right. Thanks, JD. Eddie.
Well, I would say we didn't lose, right? That's always a good start. And I think the more impressive thing for me was being able to finally see our coach, Luis Fernando Suarez, coach. He was dealt kind of a bad hand with an injury to Oscar Duarte. So his decision making to put in Kendall Waston in his role, and I thought Waston had an incredible window. He brought experience, he brought composure to the position, and then he was able to incorporate kind of like that next generation center back that we're looking at, which was Juan Pablo Vargas. So we got to see a little bit more of him. Obviously, Keisha Fuller gets COVID on the trip from Mexico into Jamaica, so he has to kind of change his tactics. He started in a 5-4-1. I don't believe that's what he was going to go with entering that match had he had Fuller, but he kind of had to adjust on the fly, and he ended up going 5-4-1, incorporating a wing back from San Carlos that not a chance in hell anybody in this window or anybody in CONCACAF other than me, who gets up at 8 a.m. to watch San Carlos play Jicaral and post-match analyze it, to get him incorporated. I thought the way that he really unlocked Joel Campbell, though, is probably the most impressive thing. In the first game against Panama, he kind of played him as more of a second striker behind Ortiz, and then he kind of moved him to the wing in the second half. And when Costa Rica wants to play with kind of like a single striker system, what Ortiz brings and what Campbell brings are two completely different things, where they both can kind of receive to check in the midfield, receive with the back to goal. But the difference between Ortiz is that he's reliant on service, and I think that he wasn't getting that in the game against Panama, whereas Campbell can create in those moments. He can turn the defender, and he can kind of incorporate the wingers, and that's what we saw against Mexico. That's probably when Costa Rica looked their most dangerous, was when Joel Campbell was checking in the midfield, and you saw Alonso Martinez running in behind. Alonso had like 2 opportunities. In all honesty, he has to put one of them away, and I think that's going to be part of his growth and part of his development. He's still a young kid. But being able to unlock Joel Campbell and get the most out of him was impressive. And it culminated really in what was the goal that he deserved the entire window against Panama. The one that he scored was just a moment of brilliance where Borges should have put the penalty away. And in all honesty, I kind of put my head in my hands and I thought, man, we were this close and we're just going to fall just short. And then Joel Campbell the next minute just takes my breath away. So being able to watch Suarez work in this role and grow into this role, because I really had my doubts when he first took the job. I understand why he was hired. He was hired to deliver results. And, the first 6 games, he wasn't delivering them. There was a lot that went into after that USA game where we called in a 39-year-old Alvaro Saborio and a 37-year-old Christian Bolaños. There's a lot of work that took place after that has kind of led to our resurgence. And with that work, being able to put Suarez in a position where he can finally do what he was brought here to do is probably the most impressive thing we did that window.
All right. Yeah. And what a resurgence it's been. I think the big critique of Costa Rica over the course of last year or two is how their big generation that went to a quarterfinal in 2014 and has been really a top 3 powerhouse in the region is aging out. And they have a lot of work to do to rejuvenate that squad. But it feels like, Suarez has come in and brought new life into some of these players and got the team playing in a really cohesive way. And that's good to see.
Yeah, it took a little bit longer than it should have, though. And I don't know if that was – he was hired too late to start with. Ronald Gonzalez, it was clear about 6 months into his tenure, this guy is completely in over his head. He has no business coaching our national team, but they wait until, a month before the Gold Cup. His Gold Cup roster is handpicked for him. His rosters, the first 2 windows are basically handpicked for him. And it wasn't until he decided to kind of hold these mini camps and working in unison with the local league where they just paused for these windows so he can work closely with these players that we finally see a lot of these kids that I've been screaming for on Twitter. Like, why aren't we calling these kids up? And that's how you see Gerson Torres, Alonso Martinez, Daniel Chacon, Houston Salas, which I thought was really good against, I think it was the Mexico game. Just this new blood that was always there, but was never called on for whatever reason.
Yeah, it feels like a problem with the top 3, or traditional top 3, Mexico, the U.S., and Costa Rica. A lot of the fan base is screaming for certain players and the coaches in federation just ignoring them. Edgar, let's jump into Mexico.
Hey, this was for the positives, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's because I got lost. My phone froze for some reason. Well, for Mexico, the positive thing was obviously the points. And I thought that seemed to actually play Arteaga this time, which is a whole lot better than having Gallardo. And he finally played Julian Araujo, it was something everybody wanted and the kid showed up. And the positive thing was that it seems like he saw that after he would sub in like Vega, the younger players, Mexico would have played better. So I mean, who would have thought, right? That was kind of the obvious thing. So
Yeah.
I think that's a big positive for him, and hoping that he does that, the next games too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. USA, was that it? Do you have any more, or is that it?
No,
other
that was it.
No.
That was the only positives that he did. He doesn't have much. His tactics seem the same. His game plan the same. It's just kind of like Greg telling is belling him out.
Yeah. I hear you. Positives. Okay. Again, like you said, the points for the U.S. I mean, getting 6 points. I almost don't want to label it a positive because you can't not get 6 points at home, like especially against those teams. This wasn't Mexico or Canada or even Panama. This was El Salvador and Honduras. I have been asking all year long, since I think March, for Luca De La Torre to get a shot, because I think and not just me, lots of people in the fan base and even in some of the media. He is a guy who I don't want to say he solves a lot of problems, but he adds something to our midfield that we don't have, and that's the ability to break down, defenses, especially when they're bunkering, low block defenses. His ability to play in the pocket, on the half turn, on the ball. He finally got a shot in that Honduras game at the last game, not against Canada where we needed a goal, not sooner when against Panama where we were losing away when he was sitting on the bench and was never. We finally gave him a shot, and he was man of the match according to Greg Berhalter. He wasn't my man of the match, but certainly he was top 2 or 3 players. That was good to see. Sebastian Lletget, who's been a huge just underperformer for us, didn't get any minutes. That's exciting. Still lots of problems, but at least we put ourselves in a position where it's in our hands going into the final window. You don't want to be in a place where you are relying on other results. We may end up getting there. We'll see by the 3rd game, but at least as of right now, it's still in our hands. And if we do our job, then we don't have to worry about anything else. So those are really the only positives that I could take away from the U.S. Let me see what the next question I wanted to ask was. I got my list here. Yeah, let's look at, what we could have done better, issues being brought up. Why don't we go around the other way and circle this time and start with you, Edgar?
What he could have done better was start the kids, like the players that everybody's been asking for, that literally solved his issues. And change tactics. He's stuck with that 4-3-3, and they just can't seem to score. It's kind of like they create the chances, but they also don't have strikers.
Are you telling me that Mexico has a coach that doesn't vary from a strict 4-3-3 formation, no matter how often it appears to not be working?
Nope, he stays with the same guys too, which is since 2019.
So familiar.
Since 2019, he's been playing the same formation, the same players, and he doesn't seem to want to change that, which is it's a problem, right? Because everybody has to figure it out. So he can't seem to fix the problems in set pieces. That he was struggling versus every team. All the teams that got him in set pieces, they were making him suffer. So that's pretty bad.
Set pieces, you mean?
Yeah, they can't, or they can't even convert set pieces either. So yeah,
they have a real problem because Jimenez has not gotten back to the level he was at before his injury. Right? He's a very
he's even in the Prem, he hasn't been the same. I mean, a lot of people don't like to admit it, but just what it is.
I mean, it really sucks for the guy, but that's hurt Mexico because Rogelio Funes Mori, JJ Macias, who's the other guy? Alan Pulido. None of their other guys have really stepped up, so they have a huge striker problem.
Yeah, all the goals come from the wingers.
Yeah. All right, Eddie.
I would say get the first half right. Against Panama, the main issue was that he decided to go with a 4-4-2 and kind of played Campbell in a position where he really wasn't going to get a lot out of him. It wasn't until he moved him on the wing in the second half that we started to look a little bit more comfortable in possession. We actually generated the chance that ultimately led to the goal. I know a lot of people like to troll me with this Brian Ruiz thing. For those who don't know, my not hatred of Brian Ruiz, but I just don't understand the obsession anymore. He eventually scores the goal, but if we're being honest, if you watch the second half, Brian Ruiz was completely useless that entire second half. And if it wasn't for Mejia being a tenth of a second just a bit late on his shot, he ends up probably saving it. And that's probably a 0-0 and Panama gets what they need. But I think his tactics to start games have been a little bit slow in terms of his response to what the other team was doing against Jamaica. I think Jamaica had their best spell probably from the 25th minute on to the end of the first half. And if not for Keylor Navas's heroics, Jamaica probably gets 1 or 2 goals. I think if any other goalkeeper is there, Jamaica gets what they deserved in the first half. But again, that's just another tactical misstep by Suarez, makes the adjustment in the second half. And that's where we end up looking a little bit better as a team. So Suarez has shown a propensity that he can go into halftime, make the necessary adjustments, and then we can get the results that we need from there. I would just like that from the first whistle on the opening kick. So we're not in a place where we kind of feel like we're chasing a game or we're leaving ourselves a little bit more exposed than we should, when we can probably win a game comfortably at home for once, which we really haven't done yet. You know, El Salvador was 2-1 and we were down 1-0 to start the game. And then we ended up coming back and winning. And then we needed a Gerson Torres winner the last second against Honduras to kind of keep us alive to enter this previous window. So I would like to be more of a first half team than a second half team this window, especially if we're finally going to get 100%. And this time, I think really the Ticos are fickle people. We're very fickle for whatever reason. However we feel one day will be different 3 days from now. But I think with 2 games at home and an entire nation realizing, like, look, if we get the points here, 6 points here, you're going to get 100%. There won't be 3,000 tickets available right before kickoff. I think these are going to sell out. So with that energy behind you, an entire nation behind you, get your tactics right from the opening whistle. Let's dominate a game for once.
You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, JD, I'm sure you have a lot to say.
No, it was pretty simple because I spoke to Edgar before even the team played a match. The roster spoke for itself. We lacked wingers and we lacked defensive centrals. So Paula wanted to play his style of system, which was a 4-3-3, and we didn't have a fit defensive central. It show from very early, and I was actually crying out to change to a back 3 and play a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-1-2 system with 2 strikers, because we don't have any wingers and we don't have any advanced inside supporting strikers. So we're going to just go with either Ravel Morrison or Daniel Johnson. And until the point he changed to the 3 at the back, which was actually against Costa Rica, he looked completely different. So I think that's where the failure came from. He never adjusted in time towards the team, and they picked the roster. They picked the roster, and he had to pick from that. They picked the pool, and he had to pick from that pool to get a roster. And I think that's where the problem lies. So I think a lot of blame need to be put on the federation and a lot of people around the team, to be honest. And I'm not going to blame the coach too much, but the 3 at the back is the way to go, because at least you get the best defender familiar to his system that he plays at Brentford. You understand me? And then he can coach the next solid looking player, because I would think that King might have a better potential than Damian Lowe at this moment, so we could actually bring him into the game, and then maybe we'll need one more central defense defender to make as the 3rd defender, and then we're pretty much good to go forward. But that was the problem: lack wingers and the CDM. We have been struggling for maybe like the last 15 years for a solid CDM. We had one which is Aka, which he's like 39, 40 years old, and he's a dancehall act. So that's the best thing he does, Yeah.
All right, Josh.
It's a tricky question. I had to sit here and think about it. No, but I mean, it's hard, and I feel almost wrong to try to criticize Herman after a 9-point window. If I'm going off of and especially listening to some of your guys' opinions on Tata and on Greg, the fact that they stick to what they know and then they can't really adapt. Herman has done that, or the complete opposite and beyond, going from 3-4-3s, 3-5-2s. He went a 4-4-2 for the pretty much entire winter. He knows how to adapt. Personally, I'd like to maybe see them try to get a little bit more possession. I think going up against some of the teams, they have the ability, but I think it was just simply part of the game plan, that mid-low block that they tried to get in. they didn't want to play with possession this window, and it was right. But I guess one other little thing I can kind of take a look at is, I mean, there's some huge players this window. I mean, I didn't even mention Borjan, who was incredible, and I mean the saves he made over the course of this window could have made the difference between the 9 points, 7 points, 5 points.
Also, his pajama pants. Can we talk about those?
Yeah, they're in
goalkeeper wearing pajama pants.
There was a Hungarian goalkeeper who did it. That's the only other one I can remember doing it. But Borjan just looks like something else out there. But I mean, remember, it's Canadian winters, man. He needs to keep those things warm. But yeah, he had a great window. Atakubi had a great window. Scott Kennedy as well. The only other thing I would mention is like seeing players like Liam Fraser get an opportunity, and I wouldn't say he didn't shine to the level that, okay, start him every match. But I mean, he picked up a very incredible assist to Jonathan David's one goal where he took at the halfway line and took it into goal. But I'd like to see Herman maybe dip a little bit more into the players that he brought. Ike Ugbo was a player who started to represent Canada, and we haven't really seen him too much. We keep kind of saying, okay, this is the time. And I don't even know. I don't think he got 20 minutes into this window. We just haven't seen enough of him. So knowing that we're very, very close, I'd like to see players like him, maybe Derek Cornelius, players that are playing regularly and playing over in Europe to get a little bit more looks. But all in all, I can't pick out too much. It was a very impressive and professional window. And yeah, maybe next window I'll have some other things to talk about. But for this question, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I bet you are. All right, Rogelio.
Things that we didn't do well, man. It's kind of unfortunate. You know, the window that we had, I'm still kind of lamenting about it. Honestly, I can't get over it. So one thing, for example, I talked about how we were faithful to our play style, but I would say that I would have liked to see some flexibility tactically from Thomas Christensen. I feel like he's always been very slow to make changes, whether that's in the players that we put on the field. When we make our changes, always too late. I mentioned it in my video. It always seems like it's too little too late when we actually make our changes. And even the players that he chooses, again and again, we give Jose Fajardo so many opportunities. And, you know, when we have players that are proving that they don't know how to, you know, take advantage of the few opportunities you have in these important games. You know, we continue, our coach continues to not change, right? To do the same thing over and over again. And I think the most important thing that I'd like to see is flexibility tactically, because in our game versus Costa Rica, we were playing a team that is basically parking the bus, right? Very, very defensive. And we kind of go all in from the beginning. And I feel like if you're playing a team like Costa Rica, right, who is, you know, desperate for points, they're playing at home, like you let them take the game to you, right? I always think of an example like the Canada game versus US. Canada was playing at home, and yet they still knew how to take advantage of their opportunities. And yeah, maybe on paper, well, not on paper, in reality, right? Maybe they didn't have the possession like the US did. But, you know, you still win 2-0 at home and you take the dub, right?
Yeah.
Like we are so we're not showing any kind of defensive posture, and I feel like that's a really big weakness. And Costa Rica Futbol mentioned it, right? Suarez made the changes he needed to make, and he exploited our biggest weakness that we have done nothing to change, and that is Eric Davis, our left back. You know, we have a game where we depend a lot on our laterales, on our left back and right back, right? Murillo and Davis both contribute to the attack, and they both go down the field and build an offensive play. The problem is that unlike Murillo, Eric Davis can't. He's slow. It takes him a while to get back, and I think Luis Suarez, when he realizes that our left flank is the weakest, right, and you have a player like a physical player with lots of experience like Joel Campbell, you know, there's your 3 points. and you know, Costa Rica Futbol mentioned it. Okay, people are complaining about the Ticos' play style and their soccer, and okay, that they're not showing, you know, good football, but, you know, I would like to see Panama make it to this World Cup. You know, if we have to play defensively, for whatever amount of time. Let's do that. Let's be flexible. Let's do what we have to do to get the win. And unfortunately, our coach is just too slow to make the changes.
To your point, Rogelio, nobody remembers how bad Mexico's qualification process was in 2013, right? We only remember Era Penal in 2014. Yeah. So how you get there, it doesn't matter. Just get there.
Yeah. Even the Mexican fans forgot that when Sanzusi rescued their asses. No gratitude 4 years later. Couldn't do the same for us. Okay. So, wow. Where do I start?
But yeah, I agree though. I'm sorry, Pete, to interrupt, but yeah, it's. Well, I'll say one last thing about Panama, and then I'll shut up. I think that our another huge weakness that we have is just like our mental game, and I think I'll give props to Costa Rica, right, for having the fortitude. And even though their age has been a little bit of a liability, they also have experience and just fortitude, right? That mental fortitude where, hey, you're losing the majority of your game, or you're struggling, but you have that grit to continue and to play. And in our game versus Canada, in a game where we start off the game really well, I mentioned it in our last video, we just went back to the old Panama where we just completely break down in the middle of adversity. And it's something that we're changing slowly. We're not known to be this physical, rough team that would maybe break into a fist fight at the end of a game anymore. But still, I'm very, very nervous for this window. And we'll get into that later. But I'm sorry, Pete.
No worries. It's good. Yeah, I mean, look, like hearing, Edgar talk about Tata and the 4-3-3, I feel like it's just a cut and paste Greg, like the same thing. Since when he first started, he played 4-4-2, and then it was clearly not working. It was ridiculous, 4-4-2 mid-block. He switched it to a 4-3-3 in early 2020, and since then has not moved from it, apart from the occasional game. And even when he tried to move it, it didn't work. But this 4-3-3, he has a favoritism going on with certain players who get called in no matter how they perform. While many other players don't get opportunities. On top of that, the way he likes to play is to have the ball, but not just to have the ball. He wants the ball, all of our opportunities to come from wide areas. He takes the ball into midfield. The instructions are to push it into wide areas and cross the ball in. It's a bizarre strategy because we have one good crosser of the ball, and that's Tim Weah, right? Pulisic, not his game. Aronson, not his game. Gio Reyna hasn't been there the whole qualifying. So, even our fullbacks, they can cross the ball every now and then, but they're not consistently good crossers of the ball. And yet we've built our entire attacking philosophy around this idea that we push it into midfield, push it wide, overlap with the fullbacks, cross into the box. On top of that, guys who can get onto headers or are left off the roster. Daryl DK, Jordan Pefok, Josh Sargent, not there. So it's like you're trying to keep slamming these square pieces into round holes, hoping that one day it's going to fit. And yeah, Aronson can pop up with a goal and rescue our asses sometimes, or Pepe can have some good moments for a couple of months. But there's a major misfit between Greg's system and, the players that we have. And then on top of that, when it's not going well, he can't change. I mean, I hear some of you guys complaining that the coach is too late to change in the game. Well, at least he changes. Our coach will just sit there and okay, Canada was a classic example, right? It's not working. It's clearly not working. We're 1-0 down almost the entire game. We're just battering their defense the same way over and over. It's not working. Okay, when it comes time to make subs, he makes like-for-like subs. Adams has to come out. Never mind, we need a goal. I'll bring in another defensive player in his position, Kellen Acosta, right? Let's take off one of the wingers and just put another winger there. There's no change. Let's put two guys up top. If we're going to put crosses there, maybe we add another center forward. So, have Pepe and Zardes together. I don't know if it would have worked, but at least I would have liked to see it tried, right? Maybe go 3-5-2 and get more players up the field. We need a goal. Let's not. But nothing's being tried. It's just like for like, replace pieces within the system and hope that that's going to now turn things around. That doesn't happen. And then you insist after the game that you were dominant when you weren't. You again insist on it 3 days later after the rewatch, And not only that, but claim that you discovered after the rewatch that Canada was bunkering. I want to say, and I hope to God that that was just a slip of the tongue, that he didn't really mean that, because everybody and their dog could tell Canada was bunkering as soon as the game started, right? Most people knew that before the game started. Not me. I'm going to call myself out. I didn't think Canada would bunker like they did at home. I thought they would push forward a little bit more. So that's on me. But once I started watching the game, it was very obvious what Canada were doing. And Greg apparently didn't notice this until 3 days later. So yeah, it's just the story of the U.S. right now speaks to a coach who is extremely stubborn, kind of, I want to say, almost egomaniacal. Like, this is my way and it's my way or the highway. And even if it's not working, we're going to sink or swim my way. And maybe we'll have, enough quality in our roster to qualify. And probably, I still believe we will. But it doesn't look good going forward when you have a coach who is so unwilling to change. And it's not like we brought in, El Loco Marcelo Bielsa, who you can tolerate a certain amount of stubbornness from somebody who's been so successful. Greg's record is, getting fired from the Swedish second division and then doing reasonably well with Columbus, although they did win MLS Cup the year after he left. So it's just, there's no record of, benefit of the doubt that you give Greg and you say, well, his methods seem to have worked. No, we have no record of that. So it's baffling to me that he's so stubborn, but we're stuck with Greg, sink or swim, and hopefully we'll get through the next window. Speaking of, let's talk about the next window. Let's look forward. Let's see. Josh, I want to start with you. Talk to us through this next window. Canada's obviously going to qualify. I think anybody would be a fool to not admit that. What approach do you think they're going to take? Do you think they're going to go, we want to make sure we retain first spot? Do you think he's going to experiment a little? What do you think is going to happen?
I think that they're going to go for first spot. I think it's important to them. I think the fact that they haven't lost yet, they're 7-4-0. Everyone always assumes that Canada's weak spot is their back line, yet they have the best back line. They're well, not I'm going to say the best, but on what they're doing on the pitch, they're collectively defending with their lives, and they're defending very organized, and they do exactly what Herman wants to do. He wants to line them up, I think, to go out and try to get 9. I think that's the goal. That's the mindset of these guys. It's an interesting little end to it, and it's obviously not near as nerve-wracking now, knowing that regardless, we could honestly lose all 3 and still qualify. And probably odds are if we did lose all 3, some way the results would probably get us through. But that's not the mindset I think they're going to go into. The first one is against Costa Rica, then they're away, then they're at home against Jamaica, and then they're against Panama. So, I mean, for rather there, maybe since we're already so far qualified, maybe you can nip something from us there, because it's going to be a tricky one. We're already maybe a little complacent because we've probably qualified by that point where you're going to be fighting for your lives. But I know Pete's like, not a chance. No way.
We need you, Canada. We need you.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm expecting them to go out there and get it probably, I'd say, a 7-point window. I think they're going to take care of Jamaica at home. I think that they'll probably win against one of Panama and Costa Rica. And I think that win versus a draw is going to have a big say in who ends up qualifying between our two friends, because it's going to be a tricky one. Like I said, I do want to see a little bit more rotation. I know that it's an opportunity maybe for example, a guy like Corbiano to come in, maybe some fresh blood. Maybe you can convince a young dual national to come over. I think he can use it as a big opportunity to be like, all right, to sell it to someone. And again, I put this name out all the time, like Daniel Jebsen, who's performing, just got recalled to the championship. He's eligible for, I believe, Jamaica as well. JD could probably, yes. Yeah, he is. And England. So show him the opportunity. Listen, we're going to qualify for the 2022 World Cup. We're hosting the 2026. We'll get you some play time. And I mentioned Ike Ugbo. So there's some fun things that I think he could do to try to just gel a few more people into the squad, because what he's done so far to get everyone buy-in has been incredible. But I think he needs to get a little extra in there, because there's going to be opportunities, but we're going to need a guy like Ike Ugbo to come off the bench and go for goal, because we're not always going to be winning the way that we have. Or it's going to be situations where our backs are going to be pushing against the wall, and I want to see what this team can do when they have that type of opportunity to come their way.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating. JD, Jamaica mathematically still in the hunt, right?
No.
No. I know. I think we all know it's not going to happen, but mathematically,
nope. Not at all. We've heard that Costa Rica fielded 2 individuals that had the virus, and they were warned. But I don't think much will come out of that, because I heard that the Costa Rican said that nothing like that. So I think some misplacement of
They didn't want Keylor Navas to play. That's basically what it was. Keylor Navas just recovered from COVID, and he was within the 25-day window. So he was cleared. He was cleared by CONCACAF, and he was cleared by FIFA. It was basically Keylor Navas and Jeffrey Valverde that weren't supposed to play, but they were cleared. So that
they did not have COVID, right?
What was that?
They didn't have COVID, because that's what the Jamaican Federation claimed.
Yes, that's what they reported it as.
Yeah, they tested positive, but they just recovered from it. So on a PCR, you can still test positive for like up to 90 days. But as long as you're recovering within the last 25, you can be cleared by CONCACAF and FIFA, which is what happened. The new test was Fuller, and that's why he was isolated along with like two more delegates, I guess.
Okay, so our chances is out the window fully. Yes. But the only thing I have to say is I've heard the president stated that he wanted to like downsize, maybe because it's going to be too expensive. So maybe he's going to go back to the cheaper options and try to get the players from the USL and local players them. I'm begging him not to do such stupid thing. You understand me? Because Jamaica today, the FIFA ranking came out and Jamaica sits 62, which is right in front of Panama. If Panama gets a draw, Panama passes Jamaica. So Jamaica won't be in the top 5 best teams anymore. So I think I think they all need to sit down and realize what the meaning of football is and the overall business around it, because I truly believe that they don't know. You understand me? Yes. So because I can't understand these ideas. First thing, we have players that wants to gel. We never got them in time. The first thing you do, you make sure you use these games to show some pride and try and get some chemistry in. Why are you talking about you're not going to do this and you're not going to do that, and you want to save money? That's your problem. From day one, you want to save money, because as what they said, they might have one of the most corruption. So maybe that's the whole problem. Everyone wants to save money and do all sorts of madness and then cost the Jamaican people dearly, which we know we could have had much better things going our way. So I just want the best players playing right throughout, and it might help us in the Nations League. Because remember, Nations League, you're seeding based on your ranking, right? But Jamaica might be ranked maybe in the 70s very soon.
Hang on, sorry to cut you off. I think the Nations League is a promotion relegation system, right?
Yes. But
so
remember,
Jamaica will be in the Nations League this summer.
Yes,
yeah, the A.
Yeah. But you're not going to be any group leaders. You're not going to you can't dictate which group you're going. You're going to go in with one of the winners, and the top 4 is Costa Rica, USA, Mexico, and Canada. So that's the problem. That's what I'm trying to say. They don't know the rules because they ain't reading anything, you know. But you're going to use the kids them now and embarrass yourself and don't get any extra points, and then your ranking falls. And the problem is, you know, because they're trying to sell the Jamaica people that they want to use the national team as a selling basis to improve the quality as the players them, to get them overseas and bring back in more contracts. But that makes no sense, because if you rank lower, it's way less teams are going to be interested in your players, and you're going to get way less contracts and cost as well. So it makes no logical sense what they're doing. It's just I will stop there, but just don't play the kids, please. Just play the best players. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Tough time to be a Jamaican fan, huh? All right, Eddie, walk us through. Will Costa Rica pull in? Could they hit top 3 in this window?
I'll get to that.
All right.
I would say, let me just kind of disqualify myself from being accused of being a homer. I pinned tweet back in September, 60 minutes into the Panama game, we're not going to the World Cup. Forget about it. It's over. It's done. It took 60 minutes of watching what Luis Fernando Suarez was doing to Manfred Ugalde, who is 19, a generational striker, and made him quit the national team. And it was a mess. And this coming off of the Gold Cup, which really was a disappointment. I don't care if he got the results in the group stage. I think he was found out against Canada with what he was given. And then to see what we did against Panama, No chance. A year plus with Ronald Gonzalez, looking what Luis Fernando Suarez was doing, looking at player personnel, how it was completely removed from where I thought we were going to be with Gustavo Matosas. And so he decided, hey, you know what? National team soccer is boring. I quit. And it was kind of like downhill from there. So I never thought we had a shot. And in order for me to feel like we did, there needed to be, dominoes falling one by one by one by one. And then call it stroke of luck. I don't know what it is, but they all started to fall. And the last one was really this window where it needed to be, Costa Rica needs to be 1 point behind Panama. If we're 1 point behind Panama coming into this last window, then I told myself, all right, for the first time in probably 2 years, I'll say it. I think Costa Rica, come hell or high water, is going to go to the World Cup.
Woo!
And the reason why I changed my mind goes back to that USA qualifier in November, where we saw an old Brian Ruiz get basically hunted down when he's in on a breakaway. And we called up Saborio and we called up Christian Bolaños, and everybody's like, well, these guys are still holding on to 2014. What happened after that was Luis Fernando Suarez said, enough. We're going to hold these little, they call them microcycles, but these little mini camps. He's going to see the player pool a little bit more in person, work with them. The league started taking long pauses and allowed him to really work in unison with the players, especially in Costa Rica. So what do we get? We get him, Gerson Torres, a better look. He ends up scoring the winner against Honduras. We get Houston Salas, who has a game out of his mind against Mexico. We see Daniel Chacon start to get minutes. We see Juan Pablo Vargas start to get minutes. And we start to seeing this incorporation of youth that should have been there from the beginning, that wasn't. But it took us hitting rock bottom. So the first 6 games of the qualifiers, no coincidence, we get 6 points. Draw the line in the sand, hold your mini camps. Last 5 games, we have 10 points. That's not a coincidence. That's a coach finally doing what he should have done from the beginning and finally getting the results that this player pool ultimately deserved. Now, Rogelio, apologies. I think Panama's feeling it. Not getting the result in Costa Rica, to me, was the first big domino that needed to fall. Come hell or high water, we needed to beat Panama, and we did. And I know Panama hit the bar in like the 90th minute or the 91st minute, but like my dad says in Spanish, un portero sin suerte no es portero. Goalkeeper without luck is not a goalkeeper. And we got that little bit of luck. So I think Panama playing Canada the last game is of importance because I know Canada is going to be qualified. Canada has something to play for. They have a shot of getting into pot 3 if their FIFA ranking is high enough. And getting into pot 3 is a big difference from being in pot 4. So there is motivation there. I think back to 2013, where the U.S. was already qualified. Panama was at home. They had everything to play for. They blew, a 2-1 lead? They lost that game 3-2. And I think the COVID restrictions being lifted in Costa Rica, I don't think Canada really knows what they're about to go into, because I know Honduras is a tough place. San Pedro Sula is a tough place. There's no harder play to play in Costa Rica, no harder place to play in Central America than Costa Rica. And I think a rejuvenated Costa Rica, 100%, Estadio Nacional is going to be a fortress. I'm going to be there. Can't wait for it. Now, I think that's 4th. I think we're going to get to 4th because I see Panama slipping in one game, either at home to Honduras or at home to Canada. I just don't think Panama gets to 23. I think Costa Rica gets to 23. And I'm just giving myself that little bit of leeway. But you have 2 games at home against opponents that I think you can beat with now this new national team pool at home, no COVID restrictions. But away to El Salvador is a very winnable game. And historically, we do very well there. So you find yourself in a place where if Costa Rica can get to 25, and Pete, Mexico beats the U.S., and the U.S. takes care of Panama, you guys have 24 going into the last game at Costa Rica, where we have 22. And if we win that game, that's 25. I don't want to get there yet. I'm not going to get there yet. I'm going to just say 23 is good enough for 4th. And I think we qualify through 4th. But I'm telling you, that USA game could be very interesting.
I had a nightmare like 2 nights ago about us losing that game in Costa Rica and Panama getting 4th. and the U.S. getting 5th. I had a nightmare. And I think that's where the U.S., we have PTSD, right? I mean, we are still suffering from 2018. All we had to do was go to the last place, Trinidad and Tobago, and get a draw. That is, on top of that, we needed 2 other results to go against us, but it was the perfect storm, and it conspired. And so we're still sitting here going, this could happen again. It doesn't matter what we've done with the player pool. It doesn't matter who we have. I can't. You know what? I'm going to give this to Rogelio. Rogelio, you, me, and Eddie are right there with each other in the same, like, almost pool. Talk to me. What's happening with Panama?
Well, first of all, if it makes you feel any better, Panama choked versus Trinidad and Tobago, like in the middle of the last cycle for Russia. So, I mean, yeah, there's that. But okay, last window of games. It's really tough to say. I mean, personally, I think U.S. is beating Mexico. I think at the end of the day, the U.S. has more talent, at least that are called up and played on the field. I think Mexico definitely has more to they could do more. They're limited by Tata Martino's decisions. So is the U.S., but I think the U.S. beats Mexico. But with regard to Panama, what can I expect? I'll kind of do a joint thing, right? Because for me, I care more about Costa Rica than I do about Mexico and the U.S. I feel like realistically, our hopes are more to keep 4th place. Like, I think that's really where the table will end, right? And that was the last question you had, which was, where do we end in the table? I think Panama has to end in 4th. And so versus U.S. and Canada, unless we pull off some kind of miracle, we lose those games and we beat Honduras. That's realistically, like, without entering into fantasy land, I think Costa Rica facing the same opponents as us, the only difference between being Honduras and El Salvador, and I think El Salvador is not a bad team. I think El Salvador has what it takes to beat Costa Rica. But, as Eddie said, Panama can choke. And that is one of our weaknesses, is we just do not have that grit sometimes. And so it's all going to come down to our Honduras game. I'm kind of expecting us to lose versus the U.S. and Canada. Now, if we can pull off a miracle in either of those games, if Greg can pull a Greg, or if Herman can pull a Greg, like, that'd be like, if Greg happens, right, we make it to the World Cup. But I'm less confident than I was before. Entering the last window, Panamanians were talking about el entierro tico, right, the burial of the Costa Ricans, right? And now we're 1 point, difference between Costa Rica. So I'm definitely less confident. However, my faith in this team, in the talent that we have, obviously you don't deserve to win a game. You don't deserve to go to the World Cup, right? You earn those things by scoring goals. But I think there's something to be said for the fact that we simply deserve to be there. And I think the World Cup will be a better competition in Qatar with Panama there instead of Costa Rica. With all due respect to Costa Rica, I don't know, man. How else do you say it, right? We've shown better football, but we have to be more flexible and we can't choke. And the Honduras game is the key. So that's a very emotional and convoluted message, but that's what I have to say.
No, that's good, man. This is real fans talking about, we aren't a bunch of talking heads on TV here. It's okay to say what you think. Edgar, Mexico has arguably the easiest window of the 4 teams left fighting for 2 through 4.
Yeah.
But they do have that game against the U.S., and their record against the U.S. is not good over the last 3 years. The only difference now, not 3 years, but 2 years. The only difference now is they are at home. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, that game's going to be interesting because they still don't know if they're going to have a full capacity stadium. I read somewhere that it could be from 30 to 40K. and the only ones that are going to get tickets are like the members of the federations, you know, like the season ticket holders and stuff like that. It's just a thing they do in Mexico. They call it a abono. And yeah, I know people that want to go to that game. They can't get tickets, so it's not going to be easy for people to go in either. So I think that game's probably the hardest one, but I think it's going to end up in a draw. I don't know. I don't see any of them winning. They're going to play it safe to get a point each, and then Mexico's going to get the points versus, you know, Honduras, of course, and El Salvador. That's how I think the window's going to go. And then I think Mexico ends up second on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that happening as well. They got through a lot of their tough games already. We still have 3 really tough ones. Yeah, we have to go to Azteca where we've never won. We have to go to Costa Rica where we've never won. It's a tough one because on paper, we only need 4 points from 9. More specifically, actually, we need to beat Panama at home. That's the big one. If we can beat Panama at home, then we have to collect 1 point from either Mexico or Costa Rica. It doesn't matter who. And we're in top 3. I'm confident that we can do that. But with this coach and in CONCACAF, let's be honest, anything can happen on the day, right? I mean, look at Calvin Jones against Tim Howard from 44 yards out, you know, puts it in the top. Like, shit happens. And
yeah,
with the U.S., the record is that shit will happen. You know, if circumstances don't conspire against you, your federation and your coach will conspire against you. Like, that's a reality that we have to live with. And so while I'm confident in our player pool, and I'm confident that especially we can beat Panama at home, we have almost a 100% record at home, right? Our only blip was a 1-1 draw against Canada. But I think beating Panama at home should be the expectation. Now, I expect Panama to come and bunker, right, in the U.S. You don't think they will? Rogelio?
They're not going to do that.
You don't think so? Okay, then I hate to break it to you, buddy, but we're probably going to win.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just I think if you bunker, the U.S. has proven to ourselves that we struggle to break down a bunker. So I think that's your chance of at least not only getting a point, but keeping the U.S. honest and making us go to Costa Rica and win to stay involved. But we'll see what happens. I'm just very nervous that Greg is going to, you know, do something wonky, play some of his favorites, not going to adapt if it's not going well. I think that nerves will play on some of our boys' minds, especially because they saw what happened in Cuba, and that fear, I think, still remains a little bit in the roster. Even though it's different players for the most part, I think the fear of missing out again is very palpable. And I wonder if, how they will deal with that mentally and how Greg will deal with that mentally. I do think we'll qualify, though. I think we'll beat Panama at home. I actually think we're more likely to get a draw in Azteca than we are in Costa Rica. Like Eddie said, I think that game is going to be nuts. It's going to be filled with Costa Rican fans. They're still going to have a shot, and they're going to make it very, very hard for us. And
especially if they play in the Saprissa Stadium.
Yes. And that's the thing. Tough. I don't want to go to Costa Rica needing a draw either, because the U.S. isn't good at playing for a draw. That we're just not. So I don't want to go. I just want to get it done before we have to go down to Costa Rica, and then we can just relax a little bit. But guys, this is dragging on. Let's go around for the final round and just everybody give a prediction about where you will finish in the standings. JD, let's start with you.
I'm looking for right now 6th. If I could get 6, I would be very happy. And we have El Salvador to play, so just get a win against them and maybe try scrape a draw or something against Honduras. But just show some pride and pick the best players, and I'm okay with that.
Okay, Josh.
First.
All right, that's the first time you said first.
It is. I feel like we're gonna go out there. My guess was probably 7 points, but like the pot 3 is such a huge thing that I just completely forgot, because they're right on the brink. Pot 3 would make a big difference. But regardless, I thought they were gonna go out there and try to go 9 for 9. That's what this group is gonna do. But yeah, there is that added incentive out there, so that makes it interesting. But I'll say 7, and I think we're gonna finish at top of the Ocho.
Fair enough. Rogelio.
4th.
Okay, Eddie.
4th.
Oh, all right. Edgar.
2nd.
All right, and I will say 3rd. I think it's the 3 of us fighting for 3rd and 4th. Costa Rica, Panama, and the U.S. will be fighting for 3rd and 4th in this group. We'll see how that shakes out. Any last words, guys, before we close this out?
I think what you said about anything can happen in CONCACAF remains to be true, and what we talked a little bit about it last video we made. This is a crazy confederation. I'm sorry, Eddie, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say VAR is going to rear its ugly head in this window. I know. Think of the last match day in 2017. Remember, Panama got in because there was a goal that was scored that wasn't actually scored.
Yeah.
And they ended up beating Costa Rica with that goal. And there was no VAR. I just feel like VAR is going to play a massive role in this next window somewhere, and it's going to impact one of us.
Oh, my God. I know. It's going to be so much drama. Continue.
There will be controversy, right? Even without it, right? VAR wasn't checked in the penalty versus Panama in the Mexico game. So it's like you can have it and, it'll be controversial regardless. But I think what you said is true. If there's one closing thought, it's that anything can happen in this crazy confederation. I don't know. Maybe we'll see one of the bottom four, being a thorn on the side of the top four. Maybe we'll see El Salvador do something versus U.S. or something. I don't know. It's going to be very exciting. Do they play U.S.? I think I meant to say.
No. Play Mexico.
Versus Mexico. Sorry, yeah. We'll see. We'll see. I hope that people can make it to the stadiums. It was kind of sad to see the Cuscatlan not full if they could have had it. But yeah, it's a crazy confederation, and it's going to be an exciting bunch of games, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
You're gonna be at the game, Rogelio?
In Orlando, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there too.
I think TAC is going also.
Yes, yeah. I have 7 or 8, family members. We're like 8 people, so I'm putting in my little drop of sand for that miracle in Orlando. Greg just has to do his part, and then.
All right, guys, we're going to show this off here. Everybody, do not forget to follow all these fine gentlemen on Twitter and or YouTube, wherever you can find them. I will place their Twitter handles. Is that the best way to find you as well, Eddie? All right, I'll place everyone's Twitter handles, and if they have a YouTube channel, I will put it as well in the description below. So definitely go check them out. Thanks for watching.